Hi, and thank you for tuning in to Noir Histoire. I'm Natasha, and in this Black History Short, I'll be discussing part 2 of my Frederick Douglass profile, the period of his life following his escape from slavery. If you haven't already, I would recommend starting with part 1, which covered his early life and escape. If you aren't already subscribed to the Noir Histoire YouTube channel, please take a moment to click the subscribe button. To ensure you don't miss future episodes, click the notification bell. Shortly after escaping from slavery, Frederick Bailey married Anna Murray. The couple adopted the surname Douglass and settled in New Bedford, Massachusetts. The couple had met while Douglass was still enslaved in Maryland, and she aided his escape by helping him procure a sailor's uniform and providing him with money. They would go on to have 5 children. Douglass began attending local abolitionist meetings, through which he became aware of William Lloyd Garrison and the subscribers to his newspaper, The Liberator. He was eventually asked to share the story of his life at abolitionist meetings, through which he came to the attention of William C. Coffin. With the 1841 Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society Convention on the horizon, Coffin invited Douglass to speak about his experiences during slavery and the story of his escape. During the Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society Convention, Douglass and Garrison finally met. The convention's attendees were so impressed by Douglass's speech that the society hired him as a speaker and encouraged him to become a leader in the abolitionist movement. 2 years later, Douglass joined a 6-month national abolitionist tour of America, during which he was physically attacked on several occasions. He endured an especially brutal attack in Pendleton, Indiana. Douglass began working on his first autobiography, which would be published in 1845 as narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave. Since running away in 1838, Douglass had managed to avoid recapture by obscuring his history through the change of his last name, but his autobiography included details about his early life that would have made it possible for him to be specifically identified as the fugitive slave Frederick Bailey. To promote the book and abolitionism, while at the same time avoiding recapture, Douglass traveled to Europe for a tour of Great Britain and Ireland, where he remained for 2 years. Through contributions from supporters, Douglass raised enough money to purchase his freedom from Hugh Auld for $711.66. Upon his return to America, Douglass moved his family to Rochester, New York, and used some of the money from his tour to launch a newspaper, the North Star. Douglass would continue to publish the paper for approximately 15 years, although its form and frequency would undergo multiple changes. In its early years, the paper was mired in debt, but eventually achieved a degree of financial stability as circulation grew. Ideological differences with William Lloyd Garrison created an irreparable rift in their relationship. Douglass began to function more independently within the abolitionist movement and also became involved with other social justice initiatives. His home became a stop on the Underground Railroad, providing shelter and a hiding place for slaves escaping to Canada. He was an advocate for women's rights and was the only Black attendee at the 1848 Seneca Falls Convention. It was also during this time that Douglass met John Brown. In 1855, Douglass published his second autobiography, My Bondage and My Freedom. 4 years later, Douglass traveled to Canada and then on to England to avoid arrest. But in this case, due to his connection with Brown, who had led a raid on the federal arsenal at Harper's Ferry. He returned to America in 1860, the same year during which South Carolina seceded the Union, charting a path to the start of the American Civil War. Due to his years as a prominent figure in the abolitionist movement, Douglass had become one of the most visible and influential Black men in America. Beginning with President Lincoln during the Civil War and continuing through the next few administrations, Douglass would meet with the presidents to advocate on behalf of the Black population. He was amongst those who called for the creation of an all-Black regiment, which resulted in the 54th and 55th Massachusetts Infantry. Douglass recruited troops for the regiments and pushed for Black soldiers to receive equal pay and fair treatment in the military. Following the end of the Civil War, Douglass was appointed to various commissions, councils, and other government positions. Most notable was his brief role as the president of the Trouble Freedmen Savings and Trust Company, U.S. Marshal of the District of Columbia, Recorder of Deeds for the District of Columbia, Consul General to Haiti, and Minister Resident to the Republic of Haiti. In 1881, Douglass published his final autobiography, The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. Later that year, his wife Anna Murray died from a stroke after 44 years of marriage. Not to be messy, but it is part of his public legacy, so I don't want to gloss over it. 2 years later, Douglass married Helen Pitts, a white woman 20 years his junior, who had been his secretary while he was Recorder of Deeds. As had previously occurred, when knowledge of Douglass's affairs became public, the marriage caused quite a bit of controversy, and Douglass's decades-long mistress, Ottilie Assing, committed suicide. Douglass Place was developed by Frederick Douglass as affordable rental housing for Black people in Fells Point, Baltimore. He would continue his work as an orator, writer, and activist until his death on February 20, 1895. Frederick Douglass died suddenly from heart failure after giving a speech at the National Council of Women in Washington, D.C. He was buried in Mount Hope Cemetery in Rochester, New York. Cedar Hill, his home in Anacostia, Washington, D.C., was later designated the Frederick Douglass National Historic Site. Thanks for tuning in. Show notes are available on the Noir Histoire website via the link in the episode description. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the thumbs up button. You can also share it online, on social media, or with someone you think might enjoy the episode. Doing this will help other people find the show, which helps it to grow. If you aren't already subscribed to the Noir Histoire YouTube channel, I hope you subscribe now and return to get motivated, get inspired, and get more stories of Black history made and in the making. Until next time, take care.